In this module, learners will examine the numerous interactive learning environments made possible by the advancements of technology. They will also construct an understanding of the issues surrounding learning during the pandemic. Finally, learners will evaluate the role of technology during the learning process. There are 3 sections to this video. Section 1, we will explore different learning modalities. Section 2, we will look at the unique issues surrounding learning during the pandemic. And finally, Part 3, we will look at the role of technology in teaching and learning. In Part 1, we will explore the different interactive learning environments made possible with technology. The advancements in information and communications technologies have prepared a society for learning at a distance. In truth, distance learning has been around for a while now. Distance education, also known as distance learning, is the education of students who may not always be physically present at a school. Traditionally, this usually involved correspondence courses wherein the student corresponded with the school via mail. Today, it usually involves online education. A distance learning program can be completely distance learning or a combination of distance learning and traditional classroom instruction. Online learning refers to instructional environments supported by the Internet. Online learning comprises a wide variety of programs that use the Internet within and beyond school walls to provide access to instructional materials as well as facilitate interaction among teachers and students. Online learning can be fully online or blended with face-to-face interactions. Here is some essential online learning vocabulary. First, classroom or face-to-face instruction. These are activities that are organized around scheduled class meetings. Synchronous distributed courses. Web-based technologies are used to extend classroom lectures and other activities to students at remote sites in real time. Web-enhanced courses or online course activities complements in-person class sessions without reducing the number of required class meetings. Blended, also called hybrid classroom courses. Online activities mixed with classroom meetings, replacing a significant percentage of, but not all, required face-to-face instructional activities. There's also blended hybrid online courses. Most course activity is completed online, but there are some required face-to-face instructional activities such as lectures, discussions, labs, or other in-person learning activities. There are online courses. All course activity is done online. There are no required face-to-face sessions within the course or no requirements for on-campus activity. There's also now flexible mode courses. This offers multiple delivery modes so that students can choose which delivery mode to use for instructional or other learning purposes. This is becoming more and more popular because of the pandemic. Asynchronous online learning allows learners to engage with materials at their own pace whenever it is convenient for them. Asynchronous approaches allow students to access materials, posted videos, readings, lectures, etc., during a time that works most effectively for them. Asynchronous approaches are generally respectful of a learner's time. Instructors can make great use of multiple forms of media and deploy a range of interactive learning or interactive learning tools available to engage students in individual or group work. Synchronous online delivery provides an immediacy in teaching and learning that asynchronous delivery does not. Synchronous online learning happens in real time with webinars or virtual. Synchronous approaches are effective when the instructor has determined that direct sharing of content or information with opportunities for students to ask questions or respond dynamically and quickly to prompts is best. Synchronous learning opportunities can be helpful in developing social connection among students and instructors by building rapport between faculty and students and offering opportunity for students to gauge their own understanding, ask critical questions, and seek feedback from their instructor and peers. For learners with accessibility and connectivity issues or are situated in different time zones, participating in scheduled synchronous sessions may be difficult or even impossible. Hybrid learning is a combination of traditional face-to-face instruction with additional offline or distance learning techniques, such as experiential learning and digital course delivery. The goal is to apply the right mix of learning techniques to effectively teach the content and meet the learning needs of students. The additional learning techniques used are designed to enhance and reduce traditional face-to-face instruction. For example, if a class meets 2 days per week, an instructor using hybrid learning might schedule one day for in-class lecture and the second day for a hands-on lab or online assignment. Blended learning is a blend of both offline and online instruction. Unlike hybrid learning, blended learning uses online instruction to complement or supplement traditional face-to-face instruction, not replace it. Blended learning usually consists of students interacting online to complete assignments, ask questions, collaborate with other students, and virtually meet with the instructor. Using the above example, an instructor using blended learning might schedule both days for face-to-face instruction and assign students to write an online forum post outside of class. With the widespread use of learning management systems such as Canvas or Brightspace, the blended course approach has become very popular since class materials are easily accessible to students. Since these materials are readily available via multiple devices, students can independently review course content at their own pace, on their own time, and as many times as necessary. This is a key reason why students not only often perform better in blended courses, but they also often have higher motivation and lower anxiety. The idea of flipped learning is that the whole class lecture or direct instruction that is normally done during class time is flipped to be an individual assignment usually done as homework. The potential benefit is that the teacher or professor can then facilitate instruction during class time that is more customized, differentiated, personalized, or responsive. However, in order to flip the lecture, it must somehow be recorded, much like this presentation you are watching now. Assuming the teacher is comfortable creating an online lecture, there is still the issue of compelling the students to actually watch it. The in-class instruction should follow the viewing of the lecture, not replace it. With all the technologies and changes in learning, there's been a pedagogical shift. Focus has shifted from teaching to learning. This is a fundamental change in perspective and has a dramatic impact on the relationship between teachers and learners. The learner's activities are now the focus of the course. Online pedagogy mainly focuses on the activities of the learner and sees teaching primarily as a means of support. Online learning is student-centered. The learning process model has changed from a black box model in which inputs consist of presented knowledge and the metrics of the output focus on what is known to a model that deals with the construction of cognition and competencies. Online learning is dependent upon the development of learning environments. Online learning, with its focus on the learner, is moving from the traditional instruction-centered focus towards the support of learning. The role of the instructor is moving towards being the constructor of the learning environment and as an advisor to the learner. Online learning is active. The learner is challenged to own, manage, and schedule their learning. This can be a difficult task for some learners who, for the first time, may be experiencing the ability to control what was typically controlled by the instructor. Online learning should be interactive and collaborative. Media-enabled learners are empowered to interact with the content of the course, with the instructor of the course, and with the other learners in the course. The next part of the video will explore learning during the pandemic. Jointly, the human race faced a tremendous challenge during the COVID-19 global pandemic. Society saw firsthand some of the shortcomings of the current system of education. During this pandemic, teachers were the glue of society. While the brave doctors, nurses, and frontline workers combated the virus, teachers also never abandoned their posts. Despite being scared for themselves and their families, despite many lacking essential tools and training to shift to 100% online learning, despite this so-called new normal, they provided the best instruction they could. Luckily, the digital generations were made for this. This entire situation hit home for my wife and I. Connor, who at the time was 12, and Ben, who was 6. Our new normal wasn't normal at all. My children, along with many others, had to abandon the physical school buildings they loved. They were unable to visit friends or extended family. They had to share a home with 2 working adults during a global crisis. And they had to do this with the uncertainty of their continued health and well-being. Our boys were lucky. Many families in the world weren't as fortunate. Globally, 1.5 billion students, or over 87%, had their schools closed. In the U.S., most of the 55.5 million K-12 students were sent home not to physically step back into school again. Individual school systems were left on their own to offer instruction at a distance. Schools were forced to perform a monumental pivot and discovered it wasn't easy to go virtual. Lack of teacher training, the digital divide, lack of accessible tools, lack of instructional or planning time, high teacher anxiety, and mass unemployment created a difficult environment for success. As amazing as teachers are, they felt disconnected from their students in their classrooms. The sound of the opening bell, the smiles on their students' faces, and the very aura of the brick-and-mortar classrooms were replaced by packets of worksheets, connection errors, the ding sound once a student joined your Zoom or Teams or Meets class, the mute icon, and the black screens. In the spring, parents and politicians were furious and believed distance and online learning just doesn't work. In truth, what parents and students received wasn't true distance education. It was triaged learning. Look, the system of education hasn't drastically changed in over 125 years. Before the Civil Rights Act, before women could vote, before the first airplane lifted off the ground at Kitty Hawk, the education system as we know it was structured to produce factory workers and individuals working routine cognitive jobs. I am sorry, but a long-standing and inflexible system such as education will take time to change. Unfortunately, we do not have time to stop and overhaul our outdated education system. As educators, we are here to serve. We have learners that are separated from their friends, dealing with everything being shut down and canceled, and only experiencing schools that are just starting to open up. They are stuck at home, going through their own trauma. We call it the new normal. Unfortunately, there is nothing normal about it. Physical schools are more than just classrooms and hallways. They are spaces where students would enter and feel like they belong to a learning community surrounded by their friends and families and teachers. In a single academic day, students could read about exciting topics, write imaginative stories, create a model out of clay, produce a video about climate change, sing their little hearts out, and learn about far-off places that existed a long time ago. Online, it is hard to engage and motivate them to even show up. When they show up, it is hard to keep them interested. Many educators feel like they are going into this situation handcuffed. Get ready for the first takeaway from our time together. You have the power and authority to connect with your learners at a distance. You can be the reason they turn on their cameras and unmute their microphones. We are here to explore how you as educators can connect with your learners at a distance. Engagement and motivation. These can be characteristics of distance learning if we challenge our mindsets and look at this situation as a way to transform learning experiences forever. First, I'm going to offer you a big idea that will serve you as guidance throughout these uncertain times. Next, I'm going to share strategies aligned to these big ideas to engage, motivate, and inspire your learners. First, you are an amazing educator. However, you are not Wonder Woman or Superman. You do not have superhuman powers that allow you to click your fingers and make everything work out. Before the pandemic, educators had a tough enough time at their jobs. Now they are being asked to sacrifice their time and well-being to support their students. Grinding through these long months during the pandemic has been taxing. Make sure to take time to unplug and get away from your time as your student's hero. Too much screen time isn't good for educators as well as students. Hold yourself to a manageable working schedule in order to live your life. According to a 2018 study, more than 44% of new teachers leave the profession within the first 5 years, citing burnout and lack of pay and help. The pandemic has only exacerbated the situation. Engage in hobbies and passions to feed your soul. Partner with others to plan instruction and get help when you need it. You cannot engage or motivate your students when you are on the brink of burnout. The biggest takeaway from today should be that digital is different. Just because you have a synchronous session plan does not mean it will progress at the same rate and pace as face-to-face instruction. The important content, concepts, and skills can be introduced before you even meet for your synchronous session. The main goal for these sessions is community building, social learning, real-time conversations, collaboration, and real-time feedback. Some strategies to consider during a synchronous session include creating a schedule for the meeting, like 5 minutes opening, greetings, celebration, 5 to 10 minutes warm-up tasks, 5 to 10 minutes micro lecture, 25 minutes of collaboration, discussion, guided and independent practice, and 10 minutes of closure and exit messages to students. Share instructional resources before the live session. Using this strategy allows the session to be more application and hands-on rather than lecture. Bring other digital tools into the session such as Google Forms, Docs, Pear Deck, and Padlet to make it more interactive. Do not treat the chat feature as some sort of forbidden fruit. Model how to use it productively, praise its proper use, and remind learners that you can see everything they type. Make a human connection is challenging when all you can see is a small camera window and hear a digitized voice on the other end. Student engagement is valuable since it is so labored in an online synchronous class. Every class, every Zoom, Teams, or Meets session should involve talking to each student about a topic that is meaningful to them. Do not dismiss this as non-productive. Building relationships should be the top priority. The curriculum will come. By providing your students a voice and demonstrating interest in them beyond academics, you can start to develop an authentic connection, in person or at a distance. Conduct interest surveys and polls to uncover what your students like and dislike. Educators can use Google Forms, Microsoft Forms, even the polls feature in Zoom to collect interest data from your students to use in the future. In a traditional classroom, Brophy observed that even if a teacher praises a child once every 5 minutes, the rate of praise for the average students would be once every 2 hours. That just won't cut it. As students enter the classroom, either physical or virtual, after making your greetings, ask them a question and listen to their response. Engage in short micro chats, if possible. Likewise, as you sign off your synchronous session, don't shut down the meeting all at once. Release students one by one after providing them with a short goodbye, words of encouragement, feedback, or a final thought. Encourage your learners to use this chat feature. Discussion on chat room etiquette is essential, but having a back channel or a space during your synchronous session is awesome. Finally, sporadically plan for some show or tell events for students to show and share any cool news, projects they have been working on, or an awesome experience. Despite the long-standing tradition of doing just this, our job as educators is not to mute learners and show them how smart we are. Rather, our job is to empower our learners to become independent thinkers and doers. In an online environment, when educators feel the need to lecture, they should keep it short. What should take up all the time are your students thinking, discussing, and doing. Some strategies that work. Strategies to encourage the less talk and more questioning includes avoiding long-form lectures. Instead, create what's called micro-lectures. These are short, just 5 minutes each. Prepare a list of questions to ask. Do not try to come up with questions on the fly. Use Q&A sessions to dig deeper into subjects, topics. Encourage students to ask and answer each other's questions in the chat feature. Use Socratic seminar, breakout room discussions, jigsaw activities, even hot potato. As educators, we have to understand that this is the digital generation we are teaching. As our generation was paper and pencil trained, this generation is light and sound trained. Inherently, humans are all visual learners. We process information visually to 60,000 times faster than we do text. Images, songs, slideshows, and video clips are excellent resources to share at a distance. Strategies to employ in distance learning include sharing previewed video clips with students. Avoid using long clips and make sure to process what they have seen in a discussion. Record narration for books, instructional directions, or feedback. The human voice, even digitized, is sometimes more comforting than text in a book or on a screen. Add images to instructional resources to draw the eye. Make sure they are high-resolution images to really draw in the eye. Monitor color use, font size, and the amount of text on resources you share. Instructional resources should be easy to read and see. What happens when students own their own learning? They become problem solvers. They develop growth mindset. They learn to experiment and tinker. They develop creativity. They practice divergent thinking. They cultivate geeky interests. They chase their passions. When a student gets to make a choice, they have a voice in their learning. After they leave your classroom, they will remember the freedom and value you placed in them. They will develop into lifelong learners. Choice boards provide students with the power to choose how to learn a particular subject or concept. This freedom encourages them to be more responsible, accountable, and independent in their learning. It also allows them to work on the activities at their own pace. The boards are useful for teachers as it enables them to identify and use student interests and preferences to stimulate active learning and student engagement. Zoom, Google Meets, and soon Teams allows video session moderators to break students up into small teams. Many school systems are worked up about adults needing to monitor these small groups as they work. I understand their concerns, and I frame them in this light. Can you hear every conversation spoken in your classroom at the same time? Breakout rooms allow educators the ability for students to work collaboratively online in their own small meeting place. Educators can even join the breakout rooms to check in with each team, monitor progress, and safeguard students. Breakout rooms can be used for think, pair, share, warm-ups, discussions, exit discussions, peer review sessions, games, and virtual station work, where each group is doing something different until they switch tasks. Students, write a paragraph to explain why the United States fought the Civil War. The write a paragraph directive is up there with pop quiz in popularity. Write a paragraph, repeat after me, complete problems 1 through 4. If students complete these tasks, they have demonstrated they can follow procedural directions, not newly acquired knowledge. Educators must diversify their teacher toolkit and stay out of the assignment rut. Here are close to 100 ways students can express their learnings. Many can be performed during distance or hybrid learning experiences. There's advertisements, audio recordings, avatars, banners, blogs, board games, book jackets, brochures, bulletin boards, cartoons, choice boards, class books, collages, comic strips, comedies, commercials, costume design, crosswords, dances, debates, demonstrations, digital games, digital mashups, discussions, discussion forums, displays, dioramas, drawings, escape rooms, experiments, fashion shows, flowcharts, genius hours, Google Earth tours, graffiti, graphs, graphic organizers, infographics, infomercials, interviews, journals, learning logs, literature circles, magazines, maps, mind maps, mobiles, models, monologues, movie and book reviews, multi-genre projects, murals, songs, news reports, photos, photo galleries, place-based projects, podcasts, poetry, portfolios, posters, public service announcements, puppet shows, rap songs, reenactments, road signs, role play, solving fake crimes, scavenger hunts, scrapbooks, sculptures, set designs, show and tell, simulations, sketch notes, slideshows, social media pages, Socratic seminars, songs, story maps, speeches, tag clouds, TED Talks, text conversations, theatrical plays, thought bubbles, timelines, Twitter hashtag discussions, videos, web pages, wikis, word splashes, and word walls, just to name a few dozen. As incredible as educators are, they cannot always provide timely, precise, and constructive feedback for their students. With class sizes over 20, 25, even 30 students, it is challenging to stop the world, lock eyes with a student, and have a one-on-one conversation about their performance, feelings, and ideas. This has to stop. At a distance, it is absolutely possible to give effective feedback to each student. During online meetings, strategically plan times to share with everyone the strengths and good performances of each student. Instruct students in the nuances of providing constructive peer feedback. Provide students with the ability to work together, evaluate work, and provide and accept feedback in a positive manner. As learners improve in this experience, they can begin to evaluate their own work. Send random emails and messages to students letting them know how they are doing. Carbon copy their parents. Instead of text-based feedback, use audio and video commenting to send student personalized messages on their progress. Many learning management systems provide these features now. Play review games on sites that provide instant feedback to learners, such as Kahoot, Socrative, Seesaw, etc. Meeting online increases our cognitive load because several of its features take up a lot of our conscious capacity. Our feelings and attitudes are largely conveyed by nonverbal signals such as facial expression, the tone and pitch of our voices, gestures, posture, and the distance between the communicators. However, a typical video call impairs these ingrained abilities and requires sustained and intense focus and attention. Multi-person screens magnify this exhausting problem. Gallery view, where all meeting participants appear Brady Bunch style, challenges the brain's central vision, forcing it to decode so many people at once that no one comes through meaningfully, not even the speaker. To avoid Zoom fatigue for both educators and students, try to avoid multitasking, provide brain breaks, and break the session up into small, diverse learning events. It's really helpful to create a housekeeping slide to share important information as students enter and leave the virtual and real world classroom. The housekeeping slide can include just about anything helpful for students and parents. You can send it to the students that might have missed class. This idea can work for distance, hybrid, and face-to-face classes. It can also be emailed to a parent as a resource if needed. Some items to include are learning objectives, engaging videos, to-do lists, homework, popular quotes, world news. Part 3 of this video, the role of technology in teaching and learning. There's a widespread misconception that technology is a subject, that technology is a curriculum. This is wrong. The issue is not about teaching Microsoft Word or PowerPointlessness. It has nothing to do with the software apps or devices. What it's really about is using technology as a tool to help users be more productive. In fact, the term technology is misleading. It seems we only apply the term to those things that were invented after we were born. For example, we don't call a refrigerator technology and spend hours pondering what refrigeration is doing to the nature of food. We don't consider a piano as technology and wonder what it's going to do to the essence of music. For the digital generations, there has never been a time in their lives where smartphones, tablets, wireless, internet, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, and all the other stuff hasn't existed. For them, these tools and devices have always been there. If the older generations are having trouble dealing with it, it's our problem. It's time for us to get over it and get on with things. We don't ponder a pencil and wonder how they get the lead in there. It's transparent. Unless the thing is broken or we can't find it, we don't dwell on the pencil, we focus on the task. This applies equally as well to the use of digital technology in the learning process. For education, the central issue is about how technology can be organized around student learning, not how student learning can be organized around technology. We need to see technology as helping students think and communicate more efficiently. If a digital device can do something better, more effectively, more precisely, or quicker than we can do it manually, why not use it? Isn't that the true purpose of technology?